Good evening, everybody. We are in our individual pen barn for the baby calves. The newborns go in this calf barn. And the reason why we're in here tonight is because we're going to be doing a more detailed review or kind of walk-through tour of this barn. To this day, I still get a ton of questions from farmers and just general people viewing the channel about this calf barn. A ton of questions about, how do we feed calves in here? And how old are they when they leave this barn? How big are the calf pens? How are things ventilated? And this sort of thing. If we struggle with any sickness or disease in this calf barn, just some general questions. And I figured, you know what? It's cold outside. I don't really want to go outside. I don't want to film anything outside, but I still want to put a video out for you guys. So I figured this would be the perfect thing. We just, yesterday morning with the wind chill, hit minus 53 degrees Celsius out here. That's the coldest that I've ever seen it personally, or that I remember. I don't remember it ever being colder than that out, so it's been pretty cold outside. And I figured if I can find out a way to do a video inside of a barn, I would do that. So that's what we're doing tonight. So this is right at the start, the beginning of the hallway here. If we look through this door, this is the group pen calf barn. These are the older calves and they're just chilling in here. So yeah, if you walk through this door, come into the hallway, kind of gets you guys oriented. So there's an overhead door in here, and we just do this because it's easy with the wheelbarrow for the calves when we bring them in here. The calving straw pack is just the barn beside that group pen barn. And there's openers on each side, so you can open it going this way and coming from outside. Makes it pretty easy to bring a calf in here, or even to roll pallets of feed, which is what we have set up here. It's kind of a mini crane. We just got this set up. It lifts up the mini bulk bags, and then we just have a valve underneath here. And you can just open it up and easily fill these wheelbarrows. This is something that we just set up in here. Super easy, goes up and down with this. So that's been pretty handy. We probably feed 2 of these bulk bags a week. We feed a ton of this calf starter to the calves. That's the calf starter. That's what the calves start out getting. We'll see that in their bowls, in their calf rooms there. So this is pretty handy. We do have another auger all the way at the end of the hallway there. You guys can see it sticking out of the wall. There's a bin just outside, and that has some other pallets in there for the older calves. I believe this hallway is probably 12 feet wide, and you can see on the ends here, there's little gutters, and it all drains on both sides of the hallways. So it's really easy to keep this hallway clean, just because we can always wash it whenever we want, and everything just drains away. Another thing right at the beginning of the hallway here, there's a boot wash. And you can see there's another one all the way at that end. We're always really trying to keep everything super clean. This is also good for the calves. Make sure there's no diseases if you're constantly keeping your boots clean. Another thing that we'll usually have in this hallway here is the pressure washer, which will just be on the far end as well. And it's usually set up right there. We can hook it up to a line which goes to all of the rooms. So with that, we got the 4 rooms in here. Each room has 24 individual pens for a total of 96 individual pens for the calves. And yeah, pretty wide stainless steel doors. We want them a bit wider so we can roll some pallets through them. And again, with the wheelbarrow and the calves, it's nice if the doors are a little bit bigger than just a regular man door. They're big and heavy, nice windows in there. This is the ventilation controllers for the room. We'll quickly go through that. There's some recirc fans, I believe, here. So you can turn those up. Just kind of spins the air around here, keeps it mixed up. And then this is a more complicated box. It runs the heater for the rooms. They're all heated. And it also controls how much air is pulled in the room from outside. Got to keep the fresh air moving through these rooms. And yeah, it just kind of takes care of that stuff. So with that ventilation controller, you can set everything. So for the new calves, I guess it's at 10.8 degrees Celsius in this room for the babies. And yeah, that's the temperature it's gonna be when the newborn calves go in here. As the calves get older, that temperature, we're gonna drop it down to as low as 2 degrees, I believe. And this is gonna get them ready, especially in the wintertime. You gotta kind of adjust the calves, slowly walk them down from that 10.8 degrees Celsius down to around 2 before you're gonna kick them out into a cold barn. Just gonna get them a little bit tougher, and it's gonna get them used to those colder temperatures before you actually go ahead and kick them out. So I guess there's actually no calves in this room, so it's perfectly clean. I think me and Dad cleaned this room out like a week ago or something. I guess before we go to the next room, we'll just talk about how clean it is in here. So it does still look pretty new in here as far as the concrete and all the panels and all the gates and all that kind of stuff. And that's because we really spend a lot of time pressure washing this after each set of calves comes out. So every single time, you know, we never skip it, always pressure washing this as soon as the calves are kicked out. And that's what keeps it looking so nice in here. So these are the youngest calves. And I guess the youngest one is gonna be right here. So each pen is 4 foot wide and they're 10 feet deep. So yeah, it's super easy with the wheelbarrow and the calf. That door is plenty wide enough to drive the wheelbarrow through it, as well as the overhead door to get into this barn. And then you can just open up the gate and slowly tilt them in. And it makes putting a calf in here super easy. So on that end, you can see the 3 overhead doors. The 2 outside ones line up perfectly, so we can drive a skid steer in here, pull out all the panels, take the bedding out, and the middle one, just for the pallets of sawdust or anything else you would ever want to put in these rooms. Once we get to the end of the row here, there's a big concrete wall. The reason why we wanted space in between here is so that you have room to pull the panels out, put them there. It's good to keep them in the room, I guess, because you're gonna pressure wash them off in here anyway. So, but you still kind of want, you know, a hard wall, a concrete wall to push up against when you're cleaning the manure out of this calf barn. Just in front of the row of pens here, there's a nice gutter, and that's really handy when calf doesn't finish its milk. You can just dump it in there. And there's also drains in the front of each pen. That way, if there's any liquid, you know, if a calf is gonna pee a lot over the course of the 2 months, it's nice to be able to just drain out to the front gutter here. And it all drains to the back of the room, right in front of the door underneath that grit. That's where it drains out and leaves the room. Obviously, this is a pretty big gutter. The wheelbarrow wheel kind of drops into it, but it's big enough to not fall all the way in there, putting the calf in there. And it's never really a problem putting milk in here or dumping some of those pellets in there. The gutter's kind of just there. It does become inconvenient sometimes, but very rarely. It's just really convenient. It's wide enough that we can scoop it out with a shovel, because as these calves are getting older, and we'll go head over to a room with older calves in there just in a second here, but as the calves start to get older, they start to kick a lot of the sawdust out, and you want to be able to easily shovel that out of the gutter as well. You don't want to kick it all down the drain. We milk about 320 cows now, and we keep all of the steers and heifers from there. We raise the steers right to finish, so compared to another dairy farm that wouldn't keep their steer calves, our calf barn had to be twice as big, because you're gonna get, you know, half of them technically are gonna be bull calves, and you wanna make enough room for them to grow up in here as well. We initially were thinking, well, let's build this calf barn half as big for only the heifer calves, and then we'll put the steer calves and hutches outside. Maybe we're thinking, you know, they're tougher, or we need the heifers to become strong milking cows. So the better you raise a heifer calf, the better it's gonna milk for you 2 years down the road. So we were thinking, you know what, we'll build a half as big, and then we'll just kick the steer calves right away outside. But we figured too, they're gonna grow better, and they're gonna finish quicker, and that's gonna pay for building the calf barn, hopefully, over the course of 10, 15, 20 years. And so that's why we built it big enough to get the steer calves in here as well. So I guess the hardware for the calf pens, you know, the galvanized posts and the panels, those are from Artex, and they're actually, these posts here are able to be bolted onto just a flat concrete floor. But we bought the hardware right away from them, and just had the guys, the contractors that were actually building the barn, pour them right away into the concrete curb here. So that makes a really solid calf pen. You're kind of committed to them though. If they were to bend for whatever reason, maybe if someone hit them with a bobcat, hasn't happened yet, knock on wood. But if that were to happen, obviously you're pretty committed to these posts, and it's kind of hard to switch them out, but it makes for a solid calf pen. And with that, you gotta have the notches in the wall. So those are notched in as the wall is poured with concrete. They're a little bit off of the ground, so you'll see how high the panel actually is here. I'll dig away. So it's probably 6 inches off of the ground actually, and that's just because as you're throwing bedding in, it's gonna build up and build up and build up, and you don't wanna have to try and pull this panel out of 6 feet of bedding as you're gonna pull it out when the calves leave. So that's a small detail. You can see it's kind of raised up, sits on top of the curb there, and there's a little bit of room in it, but that'll fill up as the calves are getting older and as you're constantly tossing more bedding in. All of the pens have bottle holders. We'll probably feed them for a week or so through these bottle holders, and then try and train them on the pail. So I guess time got away from us there a bit. We're gonna finish the tour now the next day, and we're now in a room with some older calves in there, and you can see there's 3, I guess, exhaust fans in the wall there. They're all different sizes, so there's small, medium, and then on this end, large. And I guess for this room with the bigger calves, the small one is constantly running. The inlets up there are open, so it's just slowly pulling air through. The target temperature for a room with older calves in it, these calves are probably close to 2 months. Target temperature is around the 2 degrees, maybe 5 if they're not quite old enough yet. And slowly walking it down gets them a little bit tougher and allows them to kind of adjust and take a little bit of time to adjust to colder temperatures, which they're gonna need to get used to. With these pens here, it's a pretty neat clip to keep the pails in the pen here. The calves are pretty crazy sometimes. They'll figure out how to nick those things out. So that's a pretty interesting way of keeping them in there. There's a little spring in there. Clip those bowls down. Once the calves are older, we want to feed them a bit of water. We just fill the buckets up after we give them their milk with this hose right here. It's on a nice wheel. It's all stainless steel so it doesn't rust out. Something that we've added as an afterthought, just because we were struggling a little bit with the panels coming out, we put some pins in there. Just drilled a hole into the plastic, and now there's these safety pins so that the panel can't move forward at all and come out of the notches in the concrete wall. This has worked pretty good. A couple of the cows figure out how to lick them, so we just kind of kink them a little bit tighter, hold the panels in a bit better. So we're probably in the middle-aged room now, and one thing that we've started to do, which we think is pretty cool, we've started to write the sire's name of the calf only for the heifers on their ear tags. So we'll take a look at this girl here. You can see on her left ear tag there's a name on that tag, and that's the bull. Her dad, basically her sire. You can see he is Almamatar. Next little heifer calf here, Sangria. That sire is a red carrier, and you can see here we have a red and white Holstein. This calf sire is Molaire. We're putting now 2 big tags for all the heifer calves. They look pretty big in comparison to the calf's head now in their ears, but as the calves get older, they grow into them, they'll look a lot better. We used to do 1 small tag up front or 2 small tags, and once they get to be bigger animals in the cow barn, it's kind of tough to look at their numbers and see. This is going to help us out a lot as these calves start to calve themselves and become milking cows. So I've talked quite a bit about the drains, the hallway drains. Each calf room has a drain. Now I'm going to show you where it all drains to. So at the end of the hallway with this bag crane here, underneath this rubber mats, there's a sump here. And all of the liquid from all the rooms drains into this pit right here. It's probably 4 feet deep and a 4-foot cube basically. And this actually pumps directly to our parlor pit, or the pit that's right behind the holding area. And then from there it goes to the back of the main cow barn, and from there it goes into the lagoon. So this is tied into the manure handling system of the main cow barn. It just dumps it in there every time it needs to get rid of it. So works out pretty convenient. And we got these rubber mats put on top of it because it smells pretty bad in there. So we're in the calf kitchen right now. We feed the whole milk from the cows. Any cows that get any penicillin, if they need to be treated, we save it. We can't put that in the milk tank. We just put it in our pasteurizers here. We pasteurize it, and this is the milk that goes to the calves. Usually we don't have enough treated milk in the milk cows to actually feed the calves. So we take a couple extra good cows and it all gets mixed together and put in here. The milk is still extremely good for the calves, even though it's treated. Doesn't matter for the calves. It's just a good way of using that milk that we can't send to the plant anyway. So we have the 2 pasteurizers here, and then we have another 3rd pasteurizer, and we do the colostrum in here. There's just water. Then we put bags of colostrum in there, pasteurize them. It's all stored in here, so this is all frozen, real colostrum that's been pasteurized. So if a cow calves, we'll put it in there, thaw it out, and then we can feed it to the calf. A lot of people ask why we feed real milk versus milk replacer, and we've looked at kind of the components in milk replacer, and it's not the same as real milk. I believe there's quite a bit of protein in milk replacer, but the butter fat is just not the same in milk replacer as real milk. Milk replacer might be 2%, and real milk is closer to 4. Ours sometimes been 4.5, and it's a lot more nutritious, and it gets the calves growing a lot better as well. When we send the calves out of that calf barn, there's fat covering their ribs, and this is, you know, such a good sign. These calves are growing so good, and we contribute that quite a bit to feeding real milk as well. Milk replacer just doesn't have the same components, so yeah, this is how we feed them. There's the milk taxi, holds about 220 liters of milk, drives in front of the calves. It's got electric motors on there. You control it right here. It's got the spout. Sprays the buckets full, so yeah. I made a story on my Instagram asking people some questions if they had any about the calf barn. Said I was gonna make another kind of tour of the barn. If anyone wanted to ask any questions, I could do that. And so we got a list here of questions. I got our 2 calf feeders here. I guess Miriam, my other sister, is missing, but this is my mom, Annika, and my sister, Nalene. So they're gonna answer some questions since they're the ones that actually do the calf feeding. Is there anything you would change in the calf barn doing it over again? If you were to build it again, is there one thing in specific you'd want to change, or? Not really. No. They're pretty happy with how it is? Maybe you would make it a bit bigger, or?
Oh, probably another room.
Yeah, all right. Okay, so we moved out to the hallway because the calves were just too loud in that calf room. So why do you guys feed real milk versus milk replacer?
It is cheaper for us because now we don't have to buy the milk replacer, and we still have that milk from the cows, and it's still good quality because we pasteurize it, so it's still good.
It's a waste to throw it away just because it's been treated. So
why do you guys want to move from a bottle feeding calves as quickly as possible to getting the calf to drink out of a bucket?
because it's way easier.
Okay.
It's
faster.
It's a lot faster to move around with the milk taxi, squirt some milk in there, move on to the next one, and then on to the next one. And if you have like 10 bottles that you have to clean and prep beforehand, it takes a lot longer.
Okay. Sweet. Were you the one that designed the calf barn with all of its features, or did you get the ideas from somewhere else?
Somewhere else.
So when we were looking at building a calf barn, we went and toured another person's calf barn, and we basically just copied how they did it. There's a couple of things we changed, but the main ideas were someone else's. How many liters of milk do the calves get per day?
Depends how old they are. They start with 4 liters a day, till the maximum 7 liters.
Okay.
And we like to get them at maximum milk 3 weeks old.
Okay. So 7 liters a day once they get to 3 weeks old, and you feed them twice a day.
Yes.
Sweet. Why do you guys use sawdust bedding versus straw?
It's easier for cleaning for you guys.
It's easier to clean the
Scoop it
pens
out
after?
with, because if there's straw, it's more packed, and it's just with the sawdust you scoop and you can.
It's more of a straw
take it out.
pack with the straw. It's also, I think, the sawdust is quite a bit more absorbent. So if the cows are going to pee and crap in there, it's not going to seep out anywhere near as much as straw.
Yeah, they stay dry longer. It's cleaner.
Yeah.
How often do you need to bed up the calves?
It's like once every 7 to 10 days, depending on how big they are. If they're just new babies, then they'll probably do good with their original bedding till like 2 weeks old, I think.
At least.
And then the older ones that are like going towards weaning age, probably once a week at least, if not sooner.
Okay, sweet. Do you get scours, and if so, how do you treat it? Do we still get scours in this calf barn?
Oh, way less than the old
Yeah.
one. Way, way, way less. It's a huge difference.
So yeah, I guess
We
it's
still get some. Yeah.
So in our old calf barn, we didn't pressure wash it down every time, or we didn't used
We
to.
couldn't,
It was
yeah.
all wooden pens, and now it's all concrete and steel, and it all gets pressure washed and disinfected in between each calf. So that's really helped with the scours, I guess.
Big time.
They're way healthier now than they were in the old barn.
I guess if you guys still have more questions, comment them down below. Maybe I will answer them. Maybe somebody else will answer them who knows the answer. But thanks for watching today's video. If you enjoyed, be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons down below. Check out the Instagram and TikTok at @SaskDutchKit, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.